There are over 500,000 kids in foster care across the United States, and making sure they're well taken care of takes a village. I'm Erin Lindstrom, and this is Foster Care Aware, a production brought to you by Tidewater Friends of Foster Care with support from the Barry Robinson Center. If you've had it on your heart to become a foster parent, volunteer, donor, advocate, or just want to learn more, you're in the right place. For more information on how to move forward, head to fostercareaware.org/next steps. And now I'm thrilled to share today's segment with you. Hey there, I am Erin Lindstrom, and I am joined by Audra Bullock, the president and director of Tidewater Friends of Foster Care, and Sara. Sara here is a biological parent whose daughter went through the foster care system, and she's going to share a little bit about herself and her journey today. So welcome, Sara. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, will you tell everyone just a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your journey to the foster care system?
Absolutely. So my story is going to start on January 30th of 2016. And this was a day that I got a knock on the door from Virginia Beach CPS, and they had received allegations of domestic violence, substance abuse, some really concerning things that they needed to come out and check the well-being of my family and my child, who at the time was 16 months old. And I was shocked that they were there because part of the facade that I had going on that kept me in such denial is that what I was doing, people didn't know. I thought that I had it all figured out. And I thought that no one could tell that my life and my actions were spiraling out of control. And I'll tell you, although I was surprised when they showed up, looking back now, it was one of the best things that could have happened at that time, because that gave me a chance to move forward and create a healthy relationship for my family and be a healthy parent for my child, when very easily it could have gone the other way.
So tell us what you and your daughter, and then what happened after she went into foster care.
So absolutely. Once I got that knock on the door, we were told that we had just an hour to find a place for her, whether it was with family or friends. And at that point, there was nobody healthy in my life. There was, I didn't have one person that could pass a background check or provide a safe and stable environment for my daughter. And very quickly, the option came up for foster care, and that was the direction it needed to go. And within a split second, I had to get on board with that and pack up my daughter's items. Again, she was 16 months at the time, so we're talking, diapers and playpens and just everything that she had, I now had to pack up to send with her. And where she was going, was I had no clue. I didn't receive information till later. But the fear of sending, your defenseless child off to an unknown place was terrifying. And I thought about what I'd heard about foster care and what I'd seen on TV. And, to me, it just seemed like she was going off to a place that was going to cause her more damage, and something that my family could never come back from.
Right. That's a lot of angst. And many people from the foster care side don't really realize, that birth parents don't know where their children are going. They don't know. And this perception, this ugly perception of foster care is a scary, scary thing. And it puts, I think, birth parents in a very vulnerable position, because you had a lot of work ahead of you, right? Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what the steps were to get your daughter back. And then I want to talk about how you and the foster parent work together to maintain that relationship.
Sure. So I was given a list of items to be completed, and this was my case plan. And it included things like substance abuse treatment, mental health treatment, counseling as an individual, and also counseling for my marriage. And I do want to add that each one of these components was super important on the path back to wellness. But each one of these things were great in the length of time it would take to complete them. And also, many places you were on a waiting list. You were waiting to go to court. You were waiting to get, in to see a therapist. And it was very discouraging at first looking at this list and being told that, substance abuse would be 16 weeks. And all I could hear was that 16 weeks without my daughter.
Right.
And this was just a list of requirements that were given to me by CPS and that I had to do in order to be in compliance with the courts. And all that stuff is super important. But personally, the first thing that I had to do was to stop using drugs. I had become physically dependent on heroin. It was an everyday thing where I would use, or I'd be looking for ways and means to use, and it had consumed my life. And I could not make a step forward until I addressed that issue. That was first and foremost. The therapy and the counseling and stuff, none of that stuff would have took if I'd still been under the influence of drugs.
Right. Wow. And how long was your daughter in foster care? And tell us a little bit about the relationship and how you maintained that with your daughter and through this foster family that had custody of her.
Sure. So my daughter was in foster care for 8 months. And I'll tell you, I really became determined to work my case plan to, just kind of add all the pieces together to create a good environment for her to come home to. And one of the most important things was that relationship with the foster mother. And which was very hard because this person has your child that you're not allowed to have. And it's real easy to get into a place of negative thinking. You start thinking that this person wants to keep your child. It's very intimidating and a very threatening feeling. But for me, I found real success when I laid that aside and I looked at the evidence that was in front of me. And it was that foster care is about family reunification. And if I was compliant and I worked hard on my case plan, that I was eligible to be reunited with my child. That was the truth. That was the evidence that I held on to throughout all the negative thinking and the scenarios that played through my head. And the foster care mother, where my daughter was at, she was a first-time foster parent. She was single, and she was also a school teacher. And these are things that she told me the first time that I ran into her during a scheduled visitation, a supervised visitation with my daughter. And, she talked to me and I talked to her. I was scared to death of her, very intimidated, but I could see that she truly had my daughter's best interest at heart. And one of my favorite things that she did, so throughout the process, you have family planning meetings, which are meetings where you get together with your caseworkers and your attorneys, and you go over the process and the progress that you're making in your case plan. And she would show up to those and she would attend. So she knew that we were on a path of completion and that reunification was in the near future. And just the fact that she showed up really made me feel that she was on board for us to get better and bring our daughter home.
That's pretty amazing.
It's amazing. It sounds like really knowing that everyone's on the same team with the same goal is important, and kind of puts everyone's guard down a little bit of, you're not trying to take something from me, like we're all working towards the same thing. And I imagine that has to be hard to show up with an open heart like that, because it can be like there's so many scary things happening for each person that's involved. Amazing.
Yeah. So what, yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to say, so during, like, throughout this process, of course, like there are hard times, and I think we all kind of like know that, and that's what we see on TV all the time. Were there like some joyful moments of the whole process, and kind of even with building this relationship with the foster parent? Can you kind of speak to the positive side that maybe we don't really shine a light on too much?
Sure. So the most positive experience I got from this was changing the narrative of what foster care is. And foster care, bottom line, is a safe place for your child while you can get yourself better. So when I finally accepted that that's what it was and chose to hang on to that instead of negativity, that allowed me to really dive in to the things that were offered to me: therapy, mental illness, being able to see a doctor, like all these things where I could work on myself. I was never again would I ever have a chance to take care of myself and try to be the best person I can be, other than this moment. And knowing that my daughter was in a safe place and a loving home, that definitely made the difference, and gave myself permission to work towards my goal, and not just the goal of reunification, but the goal of having a lifestyle change. That life as I knew it was going to change, and I wanted to get the tools to be a good parent, a productive member of society, somebody that was able to be employed. All these things that I had ran from for so long. The foster care system gave me those tools and the opportunity to address those issues. And I'll tell you what, I remember the day that I was reunited with my daughter. I went to court that morning, and the judge had ruled that she would come home. And we were to meet at the Department of Human Services. We're to meet the foster parent and do the exchange of my daughter. And I remember, the foster mother had her mother drive her. And I knew when her car pulled up that the reason that she did that is because she was really going to go through something emotionally, that she had emotionally attached herself to my daughter, and she was going to be hurting that day. And the joy that I had was immense and wonderful to be reunited finally. But at the same time, I really thought about that foster care mother, that she had allowed herself to emotionally attach to my daughter and fill that void, while she was in her care, that she was going to be going through a tough time after that. And I'm just so grateful for her, and, her ability to love my daughter when she needed it, like she was her own.
That's incredible. Incredible. I would say the strength of you and that foster mother to come together on the same page for your daughter is the most beautiful thing about foster care. I just am blown away by the story, and the fact that you recognize that the love is what's so important for these children, because they don't have a choice in any of this. They have to go where they're told to go, and that element is what allows them the space to be okay and secure, feel comfortable, secure, and move forward through it without getting irreparably damaged. Just think that's incredibly beautiful, and both of you ladies are so strong. Tell me, if you have one piece of advice for foster families that, what is that? And then on the other side of the equation, what is the one piece of advice for birth families to make this really work for children?
Sure. So I'll start with the foster family. And I would just like to encourage you, if you're researching foster care to see if it's a good fit for you, to continue educating yourself and just continue to recognize the fact that there's so many children out there that need placement, and the time is now, and the purpose is for the children to keep moving forward in a healthy manner in their lives. And, the outcome, who knows? Maybe the child gets reunified with the family and maybe they don't, but for you to be there for that child in the process, you might be the only people to teach that child some life skills, some how to be available emotionally. And those are all things that we need growing up to be productive members of society as adults. Mm-hmm. And now I would like to say something to the foster parents, the biological parents. If you are going through this process right now and your child has been removed from your care and is in foster care, there's only one requirement to change. Only one. And that's the breath in your lungs. If you have that, you can change your situation, whatever it may be. As hard as it is to comprehend that there is life outside of substance abuse and domestic violence and poverty, it's there, and you can work for it. And just start with something small. Do something small. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Go to one class. Go to one court date. Just do what you can in that span of 24 hours to move forward in the process of reunifying with your child. And I don't even know you, but if you're in this process, I'm here for you, and my heart goes out to you.
Amazing. Yeah. You're an incredible, incredible inspiration, Sara. We are so appreciative that we met last year, that you participated in our Foster Care Aware event last year. You were the highlight, and you'll be the highlight again this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It is really unique to be able to hear from the biological parent's perspective. So thank you so much for sharing your heart and your perspective, and just kind of, again, adding that humanness, because we are, everything that you say, it just brings us back to the It Takes a Village, and we really are on the same team. And just hearing from you makes that so much more like, oh yeah, it's such a good reminder that like these are real people we're talking about, and everyone has struggles, and we all know someone who is struggling, and like this is just another way to help. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
And a big thank you for listening. Foster Care Aware is all about spreading the word about how we can help the kids who are in care in whatever capacity works for you. Tidewater Friends of Foster Care is here to help support you through the journey. Whether you want to be a foster parent, volunteer, donor, or advocate, head on over to fostercareaware.org/nextsteps to learn more.